Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this seminar, which is part of Imbibe Live Online, part of the Global Bar Week. My name is Camille Vidal, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the art of the aperitif, about no and low, and all the delicious and excited world of mindful drinking. I'm going to share a presentation with you so you can really see what is the mindful drinking movement, what is the aperitif culture, and then I will share some of the recipes that I've created for the Maison Wellness on there as well. So bear with me just one moment while I share my screen so you can see that. Wonderful. So many of you might know me from my almost 15 years working in hospitality industry. My name is Camille Vidal, and I am a drink expert bringing mindfulness into the glass. I have been working as a bartender, as a global brand ambassador, as the former ambassador for Saint-Germain. And a couple of years ago, I decided to found La Maison Wellness, which is a platform dedicated to expanding the conversation around mindful drinking. It's an online website where you can find all the recipes. It's a community where we exchange and talk about the mindful drinking movement. And it was really this idea of bringing mindfulness into the glass. Being French and having such, a connection to the aperitif, and having spent pretty much my entire career talking about the art of the aperitif, talking about the importance of moderation and finding balance, it kind of felt like an organic and pretty easy journey to transition from everything that I've been doing with Saint-Germain, with the industry, to really wanting to create this platform to change the conversation around mindful drinking, to push the boundaries on what can be done when we talk to mindful cocktails, and to really bring some excitement, enjoyment, and positivity in moderating and bringing this idea of mindfulness into the glass, saying that it has to be flavored forward rather than ABV forward, etc., etc. For today, it's kind of like combining all my loves, all the things that I'm really passionate about, which is the aperitif culture, this beautiful moment and celebration of the day, with the art of no and low, and this exciting and amazing movement that is really growing all around the world. So, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about what is an aperitif. We're going to talk about what is the no and low movement, and then we will talk about all the exciting category of no and low aperitif that are available around the world to these days. And then I will share with you some of the recipes. As we have moved everything online, and this session is being recorded prior the event, I will make sure that at the end of the presentation, I share my contact with you. So if you have any questions, anything that you want to share, you can always reach out to me. So what is an aperitif? I remember living in the US and being asked that question all the time, and even people not really understanding the word of it. Aperitif. I remember one of the ambassadors for Saint-Germain being on TV actually talking about the aperitif, and the journalist translated that as a pair of teas. And it wasn't even from my French accent, but I think it's a notion that is expanding, and a word that is becoming more and more popular around the world. But some people are still not quite sure what is an aperitif. So an aperitif is a moment of the day. It's a celebration that actually many of us do around the world without even knowing that that's what you're doing. An aperitif is that glass of something that you have at the end of the day to wrap up your day, to unwind, to awaken your appetite, to connect with your friends, with your family, and whoever you're sharing your aperitif moment with. So it seems like a word that is a bit foreign for some people, but actually so many of us around the world do celebrate the aperitif. The aperitif culture does come from Southern Europe, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, we do have a really, really big culture of the aperitif. There is even a quote that says that the aperitif is the French evening prayer for all of us in France. It is very much something that is embedded in our culture, in our lifestyle. I'm originally from the south of France, and I have incredible memories of having an aperitif with my parents when I was a kid. Obviously drinking something that was more of a soft drink, and my parents having something either low ABV or even sometimes non-alcoholic, but it was just this moment of connection. And I think that's what I love the most about the aperitif culture, is the fact that it's not just a drink, it's a lifestyle. It's a celebration of the everyday life, and it's taking the time to really appreciate the moment, to give yourself the permission to unwind and to begin the evening, to start into the evening, to have this ritual that transition from day to night, from working to more relaxing time. And I think that in this year of 2020, when things are becoming a bit of a blur of, days and days looking a bit the same, or everything being a bit all over the place, having those rituals are so essential and so important. When it comes to the words aperitif, it comes from the Latin word aperire. And I like to share this because for me, it makes a lot of sense. For me, an aperitif is very much the opening of the evening, the pre-dinner, this opening the potential of the evening rather than just wrapping up the end of the day. When it comes to the purpose of the aperitif, and we talked a bit more about that when we talk about aperitif cocktail, but the aperitif does has a purpose. It's for, let's say that like on an emotional level, is to relax and win and get yourself ready to transition, as I was saying, from the day to the evening. On the more physical level is to get yourself ready for dinner. So if we look at like the style of the drink, it will be something that is really light and refreshing to bring your palate back to life, to awaken this like taste bud, but also to awaken your appetite. So very often there will be an element of something that is bitter that will stimulate your appetite, or even sometimes like with something that is either within the drink a little salty, or we serve with something that will be a little bit savory to again get your appetite ready and yourself ready for the dinner ahead. So that kind of gives you an idea of what is the aperitif moment, the aperitif culture. So think again, it's a moment of the day, towards the end of the day, a transition and a ritual to go from day to night, from working to more relaxing, is that moment of connection with the people that you share this aperitif with, and getting yourself ready to open the evening, to open your dinner, etc., etc. When it comes to the mindful drinking movement, and I intentionally put mindful and aperitif together, as well as the art of No Low. I taught so many seminars over the past few years about the art of the aperitif, and I just thought that that connection between the mindful drinking movement and really much the art of the No Low was so relevant for the aperitif culture as well. So the mindful drinking movement, I like to say, is not a trend. I know that everyone is talking about it at the moment and for the past few years, saying that this is a new trend coming up. But I really see it as a movement and something that has been around for a while and is definitely growing and expanding, and definitely something that is there to stay. I think it's quite interesting to understand why this movement is growing so fast and so quickly at the moment. And it's really because people are becoming more aware and more conscious of what they consume. We see that the younger generation are drinking less alcohol. And we also see that there's more and more amazing, sophisticated, delicious options for No Low that are available. So, either if it's for personal reason, for cultural reason, or just a new lifestyle that people decide to embrace, mindful drinkers numbers are growing and expanding all around the world. And I like to look at like the reason behind it, because I do think that when we talk about mindful drinking. And again, we will talk a little bit more about what mindful drinking means, because it doesn't always mean non-alcoholic and it doesn't always mean becoming sober. But when it comes to moderation and becoming more of a mindful drinker that is conscious about what they consume and how they consume it, I like to look at the reason behind it, and why some of the people might come to your bar asking for non-alcoholic or for really, really low ABV cocktails. So when it comes to non-alcoholic, very often we have this, idea that if a person is drinking something that is non-alcoholic, they're either a pregnant woman, the designated driver, or someone who has been struggling with alcohol addiction and is recovering from that. When actually, when we look at it, there's so many more reasons on why people are becoming mindful drinkers and why they are embracing this new way of drinking. And I think it's important to take that in consideration and to really open our mind on who are the mindful drinkers, but also to understand that the people that become mindful drinkers, and in that case, to the people that are mindful drinkers that don't drink alcohol, don't have the same motivation and the same reason behind. Of course, health is, one of the reasons why people won't drink alcohol. And sometimes it's because it's a health condition. Sometimes it is because it's an allergy. Sometimes it is because it's an addiction and someone who is trying to find, balance in this, on this journey of recovery. And sometimes it is a woman that will be pregnant and for that reason not imbibing alcohol. But we really see that the mindfulness and the wellness movement happening all around the world is definitely one of the reasons why people embrace this new lifestyle. From conscious consumption to really understanding the impact on our body and our mind of the alcohol and what we consume. One other thing that we see coming up is career. We see that now it's more and more demanding and competitive careers, and we see a lot of people just not having the time to be able to drink a bit too much and to wake up with their mind not so clear. And actually, this is really how I started my journey as a mindful drinker. So I never call myself sober because I do drink times to times, imbibe a little bit of alcohol. But it really started for me with this idea of I just didn't have a time for a hangover. I had so many dreams and so many things that I wanted to achieve that I wanted to be able to have my full energy and to really wake up with a clear mind every day. And so for me, it was finding this balance in moderation, because I really wanted to enjoy an aperitif, to enjoy a mindful cocktails, but I also wanted to be able to have my full capacity, attention, energy, and ready to tackle all those dreams that I had for myself. Of course, another reason that we see is culture, either for religion or for different beliefs that we might have. One that we also see coming up when we ask mindful drinkers why they decide to cut out or cut down alcohol, it can be from designated drivers to daytime drinking while working hours, having a lunch meeting, having this afternoon meeting in the bar, and all of that are guiding people towards this non-alcoholic option or this very, very low ABV option. And then one that we see is families. People want to be more responsible and more reliable for their family, and by then decided to moderate a bit more. And then the last one, just because it makes me giggle a little bit, we really see the impact on social media for mindful drinking. And actually, with the younger generation drinking less, the study that shows that it is also the impact of the selfies and sharing so much of our life on social media, because, sorry to break the news, but at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, when you had one too many, that selfie that you think is hilarious that you share, maybe sometime in the morning, you think it wasn't a great idea. So those are kind of like the reason that we see on why people decide to moderate or to cut out alcohol completely and become mindful drinkers. I like to look at the numbers a little bit. on just for here for the UK on the mindful drinking movement. So just to give a little bit of what is the landscape of the mindful drinking movement. So 20% of the population in the UK don't drink alcohol, and that's the adult population. We also see that 42% of the UK adult drinkers have made an effort over a period of time to cut down their drinking. And then at 59% of the UK adult drinkers have tried low and no drinks, with 23% that will, on the back of that, change their drinking habits, which I think that's really exciting. That shows that there is definitely people that wants to moderate, that wants more mindful options, and that wants to embrace this amazing movement with the delicious products that are available around the world. I like to think of cocktails as different time of the days and occasion, from the brunch to the afternoon to the aperitif to the evening, from your nightcap style of drink to your afternoon cocktail that would be completely different. Today, we're going to be focusing very much on the aperitif culture, which might be a little bit biased because it is a big part of my culture in France, but definitely a ritual and a moment of the day and a style of drink that is hands down my favorite. So mindful aperitif, we talked about what is the occasion, but so what is an aperitif cocktail? As I was saying, or an aperitif drink. As I was saying, many of you might have had an aperitif before, and I guess most of you are bartenders, so you know what's an aperitif cocktail and you know what's the aperitif moment. But I'm talking also of what you can say to your guests when they come to the bar, on sharing the culture and educating the consumer that comes to your bar, so they are learning, growing, and knowing. So as an aperitif cocktail, I will say that it can be from your glass of wine, your sparkling wine, your gin and tonic, your aperitif style cocktail from the Negroni, the Sbagliato, the Americano, all the spritz, of course, and all of that with a little bit of a bitterness element, something light and refreshing that will clear out your palates. And so I think that if you look at cocktails into that style, it's something that will be definitely light and refreshing. You want something that will bring your palate back to life, that will, you had a long day, you had lunch, you might have had many coffees, you might have had, loads of things that will be definitely tiring a little bit your palate. And so you want to bring that back to life. I'm a big believer that an aperitif cocktail is something that is effervescent for that reason, because the carbonation and the bubbles, which is bring your palate back to life, will be so light and refreshing. So if we're looking at in terms of ABV, classically and traditionally, it's something that will be low ABV. You don't want something that is too high in alcohol. And I actually think that there's so much potential for non-alcoholic. Starting your evening with something that is non-alcoholic to clear your palate, to allow yourself to relax, and then decide if you want to go towards something that is alcoholic or non-alcoholic, if you have the option of moderation, is such a great ritual and such a great way to begin the evening. In terms of flavor, bright flavor, aromatic, and as I was saying, an element of bitterness is always great to stimulate your appetite. When we talk about mindful cocktail and what is a non-alcoholic cocktail, there's so much to navigate into understanding. And if you are not from the UK, I highly invite you to also look into your specific country of what is the recommendation and what is non-alcoholic. But generally for Europe, US, Australia, anything that will be below 0.5 is considered as non-alcoholic. When it comes to low ABV, it's more complicated, because if we talk about a cocktail, there's a little bit of gray area when, there's no much exact ABV on what would be a low ABV cocktail. So when it comes to low ABV spirits, there is a recommendation, there is rules that says it would have to be below 1.2% ABV. But when it comes to a cocktail, it's a bit of you to navigate and consider what is low ABV for your cocktail, or light ABV for your cocktail. I think one thing that is really, really important as professional in the industry is to learn how to calculate the ABV of your cocktail. Unfortunately, too often I go to bars and ask for something that will be low ABV and end up with, something that is made with a liqueur with a bit of champagne, with a spray of like mezcal and a dash of absinthe, which sounds pretty delicious. But at the end of the day, that added together doesn't make a low ABV cocktail. So for me, I say that a low ABV cocktail is something that will rank between above 0.5 and then probably up to something that is 5-6% ABV to the top. You really want something that will be lighter than a glass of wine, lighter than your regular strength cocktail. So learn how to calculate your ABV, screenshot this slide or drop me an email for me to share that with you. But that's really important in creating cocktails. And then just remember that to be able to call it a non-alcoholic cocktail, it has to be below 0.5 ABV. So now let's talk about the aperitif, the mindful aperitif. I'm going to share with you some of the most exciting products that are available in the no and low category, looking at things that are non-alcoholic that you might have not been introduced to, because if we look at things that are more low ABV, there's so many different products out there, and I'm sure that many of you are familiar with them, but I wanted to focus today on the non-alcoholic options that are available in the market, and some of them are just launched and are very, very excited. So I'm going to stop sharing this presentation just for a moment, just so I can show you the bottles. So let's start with Acorn. So Acorn was the first non-alcoholic aperitif to be launched. It's an incredible brand from the UK. It was launched by Claire Warner and Ben, the founder of Sidlip. Let me show you the two bottle. There's 3 different expressions, but I've got 2 hands here. So we've got the Acorn Bitter, which is unapologetically bitter, your classic Italian, loads of like character. We've got the Dry, which is really, really elegant, aromatic, really dry, and very much of your white vermouth, your Blanco vermouth, so something that would be a bit lighter and a bit brighter. And then there's the aromatic, which is so much more character, a bit more round and incredible. All of them are made with a verjus base, which gives the acidity and the character of it, and then loads of different botanicals, but not using wine as a base. They are such an incredible option for all your aperitif cocktail. You can twist your classic from your Negroni, your Americano, and just use this as the ingredient instead, or you can build something that will be a creation. Another product that I'm a huge fan of is Everleaf. Everleaf is a bittersweet aperitif. Again, here from the UK, we're pretty fortunate here in the UK to have such an amazing options and an amazing category growing with a lot of pioneer here. So this is bittersweet aperitif with a lot of like gentian, beautiful vanilla, vetiver, iris, cassia, voodoo lily. It has an amazing mouthfeel, really, really beautiful texture, and it is such an amazing ingredient to use for aperitif. And again, we talked about different classic, like all of this product that I'm going to show you today, you can just have it with some tonic water. You can use it in a spritz. You can make it as some of them ingredients for like a Negroni or an Americano, or twist some of like a Sbaglietto or something like this. I will show you some of the recipe after. 2 new products that I've launched recently in the market, and again, I'm a huge fan of, are the Martini range. We've got Martini Floreale and Martini Vibrante. I love that Martini took their expertise and experience in making vermouths, bitters, and liqueurs for so many years and decided to create something to really have a portfolio that is inclusive. What's quite interesting is actually Martini used to have a non-alcoholic aperitif during Prohibition and stopped producing it. So they really wanted to take that back as well. And if the recipe is different than what it was at that time, it is very much inspired by the style of Martini. So they use the same wine and de-alcoholize the wine. They use the same botanicals and then add even more botanicals to it. The Vibrante is really, really your classic Italian bitter, a lot of like orange, a lot of bergamot, style of like citrus. And then for Floreale, you've got more of like that, like a little bit of like floral notes, a little bit of like chamomile, with obviously a beautiful bitterness to it. So those are for them. And then two more that are really, really interesting that are available in the market. Lyres. So Lyres is an Australian company that has launched a huge portfolio of non-alcoholic spirits, really inspired by some of the favorite spirits that are around the world. They have 13 different products. The Italian orange is inspired by Campari, so very much the similar nose and taste profile. It's a beautiful citrus-forward bitter liqueur. And then their newly launched Italian Spritz, which is an alternative to Aperol, so a non-alcoholic Aperol. And again, really, really bright flavor, a touch less bitterness, like the way that like Campari and Aperol will work, just a little fruitier and a little rounder. I also wanted to share with you a non-alcoholic sparkling wine that is from the UK called Wildlife Botanicals. They have two different expressions. This is blush, they're rosé, and they also have a nude, beautiful de-alcoholized wine. They also added some botanicals, some vitamins and minerals in the bottle. And then something else that I use quite a lot in the cocktail that I create, and I think it's such a beautiful aperitif, even just sometimes straight up serve in a nice glass, in a coupette or in a wine glass, is kombucha. This is real kombucha. They are really beautiful, non-flavored, so just using the tea and fermented the tea kombucha and come into this amazing champagne style bottle. So those are sort of like my some of my favorite aperitif, non-alcoholic aperitif, and that really give you the opportunity to play around, be creative, or sometimes to just switch some of the ingredients in your cocktail. I'm going to share the presentation again with you so you can, I can show you some of the recipes that I have created using some of these ingredients. So the first one is the Spritz Ceremony, one of my favorite cocktails that I've created. So simple, but really, really flavorful, aromatic, and such an amazing aperitif. Especially for like this time of the year when it's like fall going on to winter, as it has a very nice warming and comforting flavor, as well as being really fruity. So in this, I'm using Seedlip Spice 94, Acorn Aromatic, then some raspberry kombucha and some tonic water. All my recipes are on the website. I just wanted to like, fly through some of the recipes to give you some ideas, but every single recipes are available on my website on lamaisonwellness.com, as well as being on the YouTube channel, La Maison Wellness YouTube channel. Another one that I really has been one of the most popular is the Saffron Spritz. So Everleaf main ingredients is saffron, and it's just such a beautiful flavor and something that works so well in this beautiful bittersweet aperitif. And so I mixed it with a kombucha, which is saffron and citrus, and then some tonic water. I quite like to use tonic water in the cocktail that I use, as I will always like to bring that like effervescence, as well as bringing the botanicals that have a little bit of like that bitterness from the quinine, but also carries through all the flavor. I will say, when it comes to tonic water, just be conscious of what you're using. Be conscious of like the quality of the tonic water that you're using. There's a brand that was just launched called Coast, and they have an amazing tonic water. They also have a maple soda and a soda water that is inspired by Japan and is so beautiful and is 100% natural. It's made with less sugar. It's just a more conscious ingredients, because some of the tonic water actually contain more sugar than Coca-Cola. So just becoming aware of the ingredients that you use is really, really key. And I really highly recommend the Coast tonic water and the soft drink that they release. The Rosetta is actually taking the classic, bitter aperitivo and adding a little bit of a fruitiness to it. You never want something too sweet for an aperitif cocktail, because you want to get yourself ready for dinner and not having, the sugar to coat your taste buds. But in this, I'm using Martini Vibrante, and then a little bit of like fresh strawberry puree. So bring this like fruitiness to it, some fresh lime, and then topping up with tonic water. This is a shandy. I'm actually using something called a Switchel. There's an amazing brand called Mother Roots, which is apple cider vinegar, ginger, lemon, a touch of honey, and then I mixed it with lemon, a touch more of honey, and then a non-alcoholic beer. There's so many incredible non-alcoholic beer available in the markets. It is really the fastest growing category in the no and low. And there's some really beautiful non-alcoholic beer and all the different style. I really like Big Drop, this brand that I'm using in this cocktail. They have so many different expression, and it's always a nice thing to have on the menu, either to use in a cocktail or just to have as an option for people that don't want to drink alcohol. Then I just wanted to show you how you can create, again, a spritz, but maybe switch some of the ingredients and maybe keep a little bit of alcoholic content. So on this one, we are around 2% ABV. I'm using Liar's Italian Spritz, so the alternative to Aperol, a little bit of aloe vera, some cucumber seltzer, and then using Prosecco. Again, you could use Wildlife Botanicals, the nude version, not the blush, as a non-alcoholic sparkling wine, but you can also use Prosecco for someone who wants something that is low in alcohol and wants to be a bit more mindful. So there's also this idea of like tweaking the ingredients, and maybe it is making a Negroni and keeping your gin, then using the acorn bitter and then the acorn aromatic, for example, so that will take your alcohol content down. So it's also a way of like finding a bit more balance for people that want to moderate, but also are okay with imbibing a little bit of alcohol. The cooling sip, this is like a beautiful, refreshing, relaxing beer cocktail. This time using a beer called small beer, which is a lower in ABV. So depending on the one that you're using, it will be around 1% alcohol or 2% alcohol. And then using it with ginger beer, some grapefruit, and then some CBD bitters, which again, that can be a great experience for your guest. That needs to be taken with, education to explain what is CBD and how it works, but something that can be a great addition to elevate the experience for consumer. And then the last one that I wanted to share with you is this, again, low ABV cocktail. In this time, we're around 4% ABV, where I'm using Italicus, which is an alcoholic bergamot liqueur, beautiful aperitivo. And then to that, I build the cocktail to be really low in alcohol. And so to find that balance, so using the Merlot red grape juice, using the non-alcoholic sparkling wine, and then a touch of tonic water. So I think it's just for you to understand the different options and how you can work either with something that is non-alcoholic, because there's so many different options available for you to really explore how non-alcoholic can be sophisticated, delicious, and elegant. And I think it's really important to understand that there is a difference between having soft drink on the menu and having a non-alcoholic offer on the menu. Very often I go to bars or I consult on different menu and they're like, oh no, we have a non-alcoholic offer. And actually they're just soft drink on the menu. And it's important to understand that a sophisticated offer is so valuable for your guest. And sometimes, even for myself, when I go to bars, I want a delicious cocktail. I just don't really want to drink alcohol. And so having those options, using this incredible, aperitif option that you have, those beautiful non-alcoholic bitters and liqueurs, that really allows you to create something that will stay below 0.5 and still be sophisticated and delicious and feel like a grown-up experience. I like to say that tasty doesn't have to be busy. And I think we need to explore a bit more on the non-alcoholic, but also what is low ABV and how we can have an offer that is for people that wants to moderate or just drink less throughout the evening. I think that's going to be it for me for today's session on the mindful aperitif, the art of no and low. I hope this was a nice introduction to what is the mindful drinking movement, what is the aperitif culture, to see all the different products that are available when it comes to the aperitivo and the aperitif on non-alcoholic. Hope that the recipe kind of give you a little bit of an idea on how you can create something that is completely non-alcoholic or something that is really low in alcohol or low in alcohol. I am available. If you have any question, please make sure that you find me either online or just drop me an email through the website. Enjoy your Imbibe Live online and the Global Bar Week. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you very soon.